Hey YouTube, good morning. Out here doing some driving today, and we got version FSDBeta 11.4.1, and we are on the 2023 branch finally, 2023.7.5. Still on navigation data from 22. It's 2022.44. So I'm going to do a first impressions drive, but it's going to be on the way to a doctor's appointment this morning, but it's going to be very similar to the Memorial Park. I'm going to throw in a few things like I did last time with the unprotected left turn, hopefully a U-turn, and then we'll be on our way with the normal route with a little bit of an adjustment towards the doctor, which actually has some highway in it, which I think will be a better scenario. So here's unprotected left turn to start it off. I did some turns already, and there is a new behavior that it's going into the middle lane when it doesn't detect traffic. Now here we've got a nice slug of traffic. It is 8 a.m. on a Friday morning. Some things I've noticed already driving it, it doesn't sit quite as tight as it, see it nudging right there, and it needs to stop. Okay, I don't know why it went there. That was not where, unsafe decision on unprotected left turn. Okay, so that was not what it needed to do. I'm gonna go ahead and just take over manually here. I don't know why it did that. That was the first time it has made that decision when cars were coming that quickly, but it was nudging itself out. I will have to see if it actually had the commit in the post flight there. But I'm gonna go ahead and edit the trip. Oh, and let me go back to, and I just got pay attention to the road while I'm resetting the route. Okay, it should do an unprotected left turn here. I'm sorry, unprotected U-turn here if it can do it and remap it in time. Hopefully it will. If not, it'll, that's where I wanted to do the turn. And, okay, inappropriate decision there. Inappropriate braking on highway for navigation. Okay, so it had obviously missed the turn, and it decided to very aggressively stop. And this is 55-mile-an-hour traffic here. So I'm going to just go ahead and set here for a second and let it recalibrate. And it wants to go back on that back road. So it's not going to do it. I can try to force it again. See if it comes up with another route here. All right, so it has mapped a U-turn here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and engage it while I do actually have an open road here, and let's see if it tries to do anything. It's just waiting. I'm gonna go ahead and nudge it there a little bit. It's just waiting. It's engaged. Okay, so it's not going there, so I'm gonna go ahead and just take over manually. It wouldn't proceed even though it was engaged. Unsuccessful U-turn. And we'll give it another shot. All right, so not exactly sure why it chose to jump out in traffic that time for that unprotected left turn. And when I did give it the U-turn directions, it tried to stop in traffic. Now, granted, it was doing a dynamic reroute, and that dynamic reroute, while it was navigating, and the decision it made to stop was perhaps part of it. It didn't have a good plan in front of it, and it's slowing to 45 here, which is the speed limit. I just felt it slow down aggressively there, which is the behavior that NHTSA wants there. It wants it to slow down to the speed limit very, very quickly. The traffic on this road does not go the speed limit on this long straightaway here, and you're probably going to see cars passing me on the left very quickly. But as you see, the speed limit is clearly 45, and that's what I've got set. So I need to add some stops here. Hopefully I can do it safely. All right, well, I had heard a lot of great things about, and another very strong tap of the brakes there. I'm not exactly sure where that was, but all right, that is the route I want, and I did have that planned, but then while I was doing the U-turn scenario, it all got deleted. You can see that you can see the traffic going pretty quickly here to the left here. This is just another one of those scenarios where the speed of the traffic flow sometimes is the safer decision, but at the moment, this is what it's doing, and I don't have an override in my FSDBeta profile. When I drive normally, I do have a small override percentage that I use, but not when I'm testing. This is a double green light scenario here. Sometimes it slows down right after the green. Let's see if I feel a slowdown. And there it is, all the way down to 41, and then a reacceleration. When there's two green lights, for some reason, even at the speed limit, it slows down and then reaccelerates. I have two definite repeatable scenarios here in Jacksonville that I can notice that behavior. Not sure why it does it, but it's very, very consistent. All right, should be taking a right turn here. Very late deceleration there. Felt like it was late to me. I would have slowed down and blinkered a little bit earlier than that, but it didn't, and it did it just fine as far as the trajectory goes. It was just a little bit later than I would have done. Into the sun here, some cross traffic, and weird lane choice there. Should not have jumped into that lane. So that was a little rough going over and then back. It should have just stayed in this lane right here. All right, from this position, just changing the route, and it should get into a left turn lane here, and it's going to be a protected left turn. See how wide it takes it? That one was fine. A little bit wide there at the end. And there's our pink Porsche everybody likes to comment on. Okay, so a few differences I'm definitely noticing. The lane selection, something has changed. On the unprotected left turns earlier when I drove it, you'll see it in a separate video. It was getting into the middle lane. Some choices there I hadn't seen before where it wanted to get in the turn lane, but it needed to go straight. So there's definitely another network working on lane decisions here. Might need a little bit of fine tuning, but it's definitely just a little bit of a different behavior. So you can definitely see something's going on. All right, we've got our traffic circle here that sometimes it inappropriately uses a complete stop with no traffic. We got some traffic here in front of us today. I got a car behind me, so I'm really not going to be able to just let it do what it wants to do. Let's see if it rolls this one. It's got a stop planned, and I'm having to nudge it through. There's my accelerator for inappropriately stopping, and it's got another stop there, and I'm tapping it again. So those are two stops that were inappropriate. And on this turn, it usually does this one okay. So this one I'm coming just around to the right, and see how there's no stops programmed here, and it's doing it just fine. So on the S curve here is where we get some inappropriate blinkers sometimes. Let's see if that has changed behavior at all. This is the S curve going into Avondale. Usually it's this next curve where I get a blinker. Right about now, usually. Let's see. Hey, no blinker. That might be new behavior. Let's see if I get one here. Oh, it's still there. Okay. Unnecessary blinker on just an S-curve road. Usually get another one right here sometimes too. Didn't get one there. So only got one blinker on that one, so maybe there's a little bit of a different behavior. That was pretty repeatable. Little dog on the right side of the road. Wasn't moving. The trajectory was fine. All right, I need to edit this stop again. All right, so here is Avondale, kind of a very dense little village. It's earlier in the morning, so there's probably not going to be a lot of pedestrian traffic, but it is just kind of a tight spot with a lot of angled parking, and on the angled parking is where cars can kind of start backing out slowly, and it's just kind of a difficult, crowded spot when it's busy. It should just go straight through here today. Kind of see all the cars rendered out there. Pedestrian on the other side, but he's walking right behind me. The car did not brake for him at all, which is good. Yeah, no problem there. So Biscotti's, as the intermediate destination, did good to get us to Avondale. And you may recognize this from the Memorial Park Drive, which is what my intent was. But I'm going to take a left turn up here that I normally don't make to jump out on the highway to do a little bit of FSD 11.4 merging onto the highway. I did see some video from some folks that ran late last night, and it does look like the merging behavior has not changed. So there is no blinker on the merge that I can see. It's still kind of using the full merge lane as its own, which is a little disappointing. That was definitely one of the last things for highway that felt a little blatantly obvious to me. I know there's a little bit of an internal debate about whether or not, you know, you should use the full lane and the zipper, which I think is fine if you can predict that you'll be able to get over at the end of the zipper. But the problem that FSD has is if it doesn't, it aggressively just stops at the end of the lane, and then it makes it even more difficult. So it's like it needs to do it a little bit earlier. All right, so this is the little bit of an adjustment here we're taking. Gonna get some stop signs and some cross traffic to get back out on the main road. All right, so here we should probably have a creep limit because it does have some limited visibility here. And it did not creep. I hope it could see everything. I quickly checked. I expected it to put a creep there just based on the foliage around, but it didn't. All right, this is kind of an unmarked road a little bit. It's using the center of the lane. It's not marking a yellow line until a yellow line is painted there. So no issues without any oncoming traffic to judge what it was doing. But unmarked roads without a nice curb sometimes can be a little tricky when large opposing traffic comes. All right, this is just a regular intersection. It'll be protected to cross straight ahead. And there's the green. Fine acceleration curve there. A little bit of a school zone here. Didn't slow down at all. I didn't actually see a school zone sign. You just had the signs up there for the walking across. Some green arrows to continue here. Come in. It turned yellow as I was under it. Chose to proceed. Fine decision there. No issues. And should be turning right here to jump on to the highway. And it got into the correct lane. It can go right on red here, but this is a very busy intersection. So it stopped way back here, which is, if you look here, it's not the right spot. That car may be kind of affecting where it's stopping, but there's a definite stop line further forward. It kind of knows it, and it's trying to make its way. And you can see there's a car behind me now. Now it's creeping forward for visibility. We'll see if it chooses to go right on red here, but all right, there's a small gap if it goes right there. Is it going to do it? Oh, and it waited. It waited. Okay. And it jumped in. All right, now we got to merge. And let's see if it does the merge correctly. This guy's letting me over. And I'm just going to run out of lane here. And it's going to go over without a blinker. So I don't like those. The truck behind me let me in. That is why it worked. If it doesn't happen that way in some cities where the cars, you know, are a little bit more aggressive and don't create a spot, the Tesla runs into the end of the merge lane and runs out of space, which is not what you want to happen. So it did a good job on that right on red, finding a hole. You could feel it's jittery, it's just kind of working its way in. But it did it, and it got away with the merge because of a polite neighbor that left the gap for the car. Okay, so now this is Interstate 10 and Interstate 95. It is a very busy intersection. There is a lot of ways the car can succeed, so it's not only one way to get to the north, but the speeds are usually the problem. At this interchange, it uses like 50, and you see we're still going 50, and the traffic likes to go faster than that. Okay, and that car came over into my lane, and I had to kind of disengage there. Disengage for oncoming traffic. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but he jumped over into my lane and he was just kind of creeping, so the car wasn't giving him any more room. So this is kind of rush hour here in Jacksonville at this interchange, and you see 50 is just a little bit slow, so I'm going to give it another 5 just to keep the flow moving here. And this is where map data is critical if it doesn't have some sort of way of biasing to something faster than the map data with the flow of traffic. It can be a little bit awkward. And I got cars approaching me from the rear, and you see it just jumped down to 45. It cannot go 45 here. 35. Okay, please don't slow down that much. And now you can see the 35 mile an hour sign. It's got blue around it because my selected speed is so much above the map speed. So that, you know, could that be from the roads that are 50 feet below me underneath these overpasses and the map data is translating through the layers? I don't know, but this happens in many different spots where you're driving. Usually it's in neighborhoods, but when it happens on interstates, the aggressiveness they've put into the slowdowns is uncomfortable when there are cars right on your rear. And you see I've got cars passing me on the right now, but I'm getting ready to take a right turn, so I'm just going to kind of let it go here for a little bit. There's plenty of room for cars to pass me on the left should they choose. 55 is a safe speed, albeit a little slow for this part of the highway. Okay, now it's going to be taking a right here. It has 2 lanes, so it can do it from this lane. I probably would have gotten in the other lane, but as long as it maps this turn and takes it, it'll be fine. And it did take the exit just fine. And there was a comment there about choosing the fork. It may have made this decision accurately because of the turn it needs to make here on the left. And I think that's what that alert was. It was choosing the left because we're now off the highway, and it's just going to turn left into this parking lot here where the doctor's office is. See how it does here. See if it pulls all the way into the lot. It might. It looks like the point of interest is in the right location. It's got the blinker. All right, it's going to get me in the lot. A little bit of a jerk there. Tight turn. Okay, another opposing car there, so I just disengaged to not create a little bit of a traffic jam. So yeah. That is the first leg of this route. I kind of like the route. Sure did heck see a lot there. Not all of it great. But I wouldn't say this is a horrible release. I think it's got some new behaviors with lanes. I think that the lane selection is different, and perhaps with a little bit more smoothness, it's going to be a lot better. Speeds and the map data underlying are still kind of a critical issue, especially when it's obviously bad, like 35 miles an hour on an I-10 overpass with I-95. That's just not safe, and I don't think that there is actually map data that would want you going that slow. So anyway, I'm going to jump in here and we'll do a return leg, and we'll put this together for you today, and we'll see you in just a minute. All right, YouTube. We're going to see if this thing can get us back. So I've got a route in here. You can see I just jumped out of the parking lot, and it's got a little bit of a re-navigation to do. Nice stop sign there. That was a 4-way, so it didn't have any issues there. Got a 1-way here, and you can see it needs to go straight, but it's got to go on the other side of this median if it's going to go straight here. No problems there. All right. And now we got a red light, so it's going to need to do a right on red after it yields to the traffic from the left that isn't moving. And it went for it. All right, now, as you can see out the front, we're now joining 95 South with a merge to I-10 West, the intersection we just jumped on. So let's go ahead and go to the wide view here. It is a little bit of a confusing interchange here, only because of the angles it has to do. It's done it successfully in the past. It just needs to stay to the left here. Fine, okay. And this is that curve here. Look at all the rubber and scrapes on this wall right here. It's 22 miles an hour, 21. Very good job managing the speed on that curve. It didn't overdo it. And you can see the speed actually adjusting there. Now we got a speed of 55 with an acceleration and a merge onto Interstate 95 South. And the traffic is moving very fast. 55 is actually probably not enough. And let's see what happens here on the merge. There is room, doesn't need to wait. I think it's just gonna stay here. And this is fine. I do have an exit only up here, if you see that. And usually the exit onlys, it knows to get out of. Actually, the exit only is all the way up there to the right. So actually this lane works, and it's jumping into the exit only. Interesting, I don't think it should have done that, because now I think it has to jump out. Yeah, so it jumped over, now it's gotta jump out, which is a mistake. It shouldn't have done that, and it's done that in the past. Map data is all I can think of there, right? You know, it just didn't need to do that. Or maybe the distance it looks into the future, it didn't realize that it was coming, is the only other thing I could think of. Okay, so from this lane, and I could have gone in those far left lanes too, I've got to get over about 4 lanes to take this exit up here to exit off of I-10. It's done it successfully in the past, so I'm not concerned, and the traffic is not super dense right now. Let's just see how it decides to do it. There's 1 lane. There's 2 lanes. And 1 more is required. It can't go from here, so it needs to slow down a little bit with this car. And I do feel it slowing, and now it can get over just fine. So it got over 3 lanes of traffic at the interchange of 95 and 10 very safely. It can stay in this lane. It doesn't need to jump over in the other lane, which is what I expected to do. Choosing left fork to stay en route. So that is a new prompt, I think. I mentioned that, seeing it earlier, and there it is. So it got off the exit. Now here, 45 is the speed limit, but it is really a little bit too slow if there's traffic that's a little impatient, and I do see some cars that are gonna pass me here, but I'm just gonna let it ride, because that is the speed limit. You see these trucks passing me. Interesting that is rendered as a car, even though it's obviously a truck. Interesting how it did that. Now it wants to get over in the left lane. And if I get in that left lane going this fast, it's going to be awkward. Now the car let me. Gave me room. Really backed off. Wow, that's 2 nice drivers we had today. I'm just going to give another 5 miles an hour there for the traffic, and it ends up, we're at the red light. So there we go. Very aggressive once it saw that. Nice, but I saw it coming well before it started braking, well before, about a second before, and now it got over to this left lane. So good lane changes there. So, you know, this 11.4.1 was supposed to be about lane selection. I'm definitely seeing behaviors with lane selection that are different. I would say some are improved and some are not improved, but I think that was well handled. And the neural networks can continue to be tweaked to improve where we think it's not doing the exact right things. And this is the .1 release. So I would expect a .2 or 3 or 4 to come out on this version also. Now, if you notice, renderings of the blinkers are working here just while we're at this light. You can see we have a left blinker and a left blinker. There is a car in front of this RAV4 that it cannot see. I can see it through the glass, which is what a human does. Without a radar, this car cannot see it at this time because it's not rendering things through glass. This will be a protected left turn when we get there through a green arrow. Let's see how it chooses to do this. It's kind of a very wide open intersection, and I think I've done this intersection is up here. You can kind of see it. Well, I can't quite zoom into it from here. This intersection up in the center. It's kind of wide open with a lot of lanes, and I don't think it's well marked. Looks like we got the light switching now. Very quick on the green. It identified it immediately. So, and it's highlighted blue, which means it's, oh, and I got a yellow, and I'm gonna go ahead and accelerate through there. That's a very long light, and I should have gone, and the car behind me even went. So that was a nudge for traffic. Very short light, and you know there were two cars behind me that made it through that light, and the car was getting ready to stop. So, just an interesting little intervention there for convenience. All right, now we're back on the same road where we started the alternate route. So we're going to kind of finish up the first impressions drive on the second half of the Memorial Park route. A little bit different scenario though for you. Actually, now that I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and edit the trip and see if I can change it up just a little bit more. All right, and we're turning, gonna turn right here. Good. So right on red is legal. Doesn't have any signs prohibiting it. Cars are definitely coming from the left. It's got a good creep limit there. It's clear now if it goes, but it cannot hesitate. It needs to go. Okay, it committed with a decent amount of acceleration there. That was a nice smooth deceleration for that car that time. It kind of obviously saw that he was stopped and smoothly decelerated rather than continuing and rapidly decelerating. Not sure if it was the brake lights or what it was, but that was good. Left turn here. And okay, I had to go ahead and tap it through because there was a car right on my rear, and I don't know why it was going to stop in that road there. And it chose to jump off here, but look at what it found itself in. And now it was going on the wrong side of this median. This is what it got itself into. I didn't create this scenario, so it wanted to jump right, and then it lost its way a little bit. And now it wants to turn right again. Look at how that creep limit is at an angle there. Interesting. That's good. I like that the fact it was adjusting to the curvature of the road rather than trying to square it up. All right, went around that truck nicely, crossed the double yellow line to do it. Got some trash cans on the street here it needs to avoid or give a little bit of room to. Perfect spot on the stop line. Interesting how it's not mapping the stop lines. It is trying to visually map the pedestrian crosswalks with you see the fuzzy gray and how they're kind of moving. That's how you know they're being visually mapped instead of map data, when they kind of move around a little bit. Very slow on that green light. Not sure why it treated that one a little bit different. And now we're coming up on our flashing yellows, which it's handled these fine before, but always kind of rendered a little bit of red. It's going 28 and a 30, which makes, and there's the yellow light, which makes the very, very slow speed even a little bit slower for people behind me. One more yellow, flashing yellow. And there's the red that you see in the visualization as you go under it pretty consistently. Yeah, this car, I'm just going to show you here. He's kind of right on my tail here. I'm doing the speed limit. I'm not going to worry about it. But when it does kind of give me the little brake taps and go down to 28, I'm sure he's like, what are you slowing down for? But not to worry. So it is 9 o'clock and we are coming up on a school zone with a flashing yellow, and school is not in session, so it is not flashing, but I will just kind of continue to point out on this spot. This is if that light right there is flashing, it's 15. I've never seen it honor it, so it's still perhaps a feature that will one day be included. Now here we're kind of doing our roundabout again, and the map data has created confusion at this intersection before. It should be yielding. I'm going very slow approaching this, and now I'm tapping it through because of the yield and the car right on my rear end. You know, yield with no traffic, it just needs to roll. So that was an intervention. And there has been confusion right here. It needs to continue to go straight, and see that stop it puts in there? That's also bad. It's not supposed to be stopping there. And now it's got a yield that's appropriate. That was good. It needed to yield for him. So, and now I'm tapping it again because it just isn't proceeding in the roll there. So these are Florida, you know, traffic circles. You know, many other parts of the country have more complex traffic circles than this. It just doesn't feel natural yet. Perhaps it needs more visibility or more time to take in the visibility it has. I'm not sure. Okay, so here we're taking a left-hand turn, and it is going to be a protected, more than likely. We'll see how fast these cars jump off the line here. You can see this truck over here to the left, perhaps. It's rendered as kind of an SUV in the chart. This is a scenario where I've now got a green light. He wants to jump into the light, so Courteous is going to let him jump in and take a turn here. I don't know if the Tesla is going to do that or not, and it's going very slowly, and it very slowly. Still got the green arrow, and it proceeded. Just a little bit of a human interaction that we all think about when we see other cars, and a very nice boost there I felt once we got on the highway. So slow up to that point. To where, you know, people want to get into traffic, and you leave spots, you wave them through, different types of interactions happen. It'll be interesting to see how those decisions continue to get made. I didn't want to, I would have had to stop and disengage to let that car in at that moment. So I wanted to let the Tesla do its thing to see what it was going to do. Or if he was aggressive and had jumped in, you know, would the car have overreacted and allowed him to jump in, which is what I would expect to have happened there. So here we have a double green light going the other direction, and I'm already going below the speed limit, so I don't expect it. And look at it, it slowed all the way down to 42. I do have a car in front of me that was accelerating, so I think that deceleration again was the double green light scenario. Not exactly sure why that is so persistent. It's just a little bit of a nuisance. You can kind of feel the deceleration happening, and you're looking around to wonder why. All right, well, so as we go across the bridge here and have one more turn to go, as a kind of a summary of these two legs, you know, we had a lot in there. I threw in the I-10, I-95 to get a little bit of highway and merging type of behavior, and I think it was okay. It did not feel drastically different than the previous version, 11.3.6. The merges are still the same. We did have that one merge where that truck had to let me in, and it didn't use the blinker. It just continued to take the lane over. So I know there was a lot of questions about whether that was going to be fixed. I don't think it's fixed yet. The lane selection and choices seem to be different. I'm not going to say they're great because it jumped into one lane only to have to jump back, and I know some of those decisions are what we're looking to get improvements on. So maybe a little bit more time, we'll understand how the nets are thinking differently. It's a little hard to do on the first day. It takes a few more miles. So at this light, we've got this is going to be an unprotected forward facing, and it looks like there's a nice slug of traffic or a gap in the traffic, but there is a car right here, and it is, wow, it aggressively stopped there to check, and then it was wide open, so it didn't have any issues there, but the way it felt like it was going to roll it, usually I can predict how it's going to do it, but that time it decided to stop at the last second. So there we are, FSD 11.4.1, first impressions to the doctor's office with the Memorial Park route for the most part. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you got any questions or thoughts or comments, please leave them in the comments below. Until next time, have a great day.